Okay guys, welcome to the video. Today we're going to discuss really tricky problem that everyone's having these days, especially young people. The fact that they can't get a date. The dating market, the online dating market has failed. A lot of people that use these Tinder apps, and they're finding it difficult these days to make that work out for them. All right, so this video is about the fact that the online dating market's failed, and the fact that it's kind of fallen into what's called the Tinder Trap. And then we're going to discuss the fact that this same phenomenon is affecting the other markets. I think a lot of people now know that there might be a problem with our systems. Obviously, in the last few years, a few systems seems to be impaired. You might have noticed that things are becoming a little bit unstable. And that's because our markets are failing, okay? So we need to fix this problem, and in order to do that, we need to define the problem first. And so that's what I'm going to do today. So today I will tell you what the Tinder Trap is. I'm going to tell you why our markets are failing. I'm going to use the Tinder market to explain this concept, since everyone knows the dating market, okay? You're all familiar with this market. Everybody knows dating. So I'm going to use the dating market because you guys understand that. And then I'll map the concept onto another market, say the university market, maybe another one, so that you can get a deeper understanding of how prevalent this problem is. Okay, so what is Tinder? Tinder's an app that you use. It's on your phone. You download it, and just for the older guys, you can match people on your phone and then go on romantic dates. So you use these apps to find your romantic other, okay? And it's very efficient, and I think they started around 2010. Let's just say 2010 for the sake of intellectual clarity, okay? So in the beginning, the Tinder app was a stunning success. I used it in the beginning, and I found almost all of my girlfriends from that period on using these apps. And the young people are now saying that these apps don't work. And the young people are a bit angry about this because they were brought up in a culture, these people who are like 20 or something, they were told that everything will be digitized and everything will be better. That they should digitize their life. They should socialize online. They should digitize their identity, and it will be improved by this process. And they're a little angry, I think, because that hasn't worked out now. They can't find a boyfriend or girlfriend, and they don't know why. So I think they're a little bit confused as to what's going on in their society. So for me to explain the Tinder Trap for the young people especially, I need to bring it back to, say, my granddad's time and my mother's time, to explain the differences that have happened, okay? You're now operating in a purely digital market. In my grandfather's time, he was a master farmer and had several commercial interests, so he was a capitalist. Everything my grandfather did was physical, and it came at a cost. Everything. If he wanted to sell cattle, he would have to get his truck, his trailer, and he'd go down to the market, and then he would discuss prices with the other traders, with the buyers. In his time, even to know the price of cattle costed money. He had to drive there. He had to use resources to get there. Even to find out the price of something costed significant resources. So they didn't go to the market very frequently. They'd go maybe once a month. They didn't want to waste their time and their money going to the market to find out what the price was. Okay? That was the nature of the market 2 generations ago. It was the same everywhere around the world, okay? The way the market was operating 2 generations ago was pretty much the exact same way the market was operating for the last 6,000 years. It was completely physical, and all information came at a cost. As such, there were no superfluous actors. Everyone was very serious, and they were all competing for an optimum outcome for themselves. In my mother's generation, she graduated from Loretto's boarding school, and she didn't go to university. In her generation, they didn't think there was much point in going to university. She was educated enough to go to university. She obviously had very high grades, good education, money. But her generation didn't think there was any point in going to university. They just didn't think there was, unless you were a genius or something, you didn't go to university. And my aunt, for example, she was a genius. And she did go to university. My aunt was an extremely gifted intellectual, and she had a lot of intellectual power. And so she did go to university, but she was an extraordinary intellectual gifted person. Okay? So when my mother graduated from high school, the idea of university didn't exist unless you were a true genius. So she wasn't a true genius. She was just a good student. She didn't bother with university. She knew she wasn't a genius. So she went to the Royal Post Office, and she was a clerk. And when she worked at the Royal Post Office, there was no computers. Nothing was digitized. And the work was quite demanding intellectually, but she was able to do it. So even in my mother's generation, there was a physical character to the market. There was no digitization at all. All right? Now, I need you to understand that this is just one generation ago. Okay? There was no digitization at all. And now, entire markets are digitized. There's this idea that's common. People think that the market, if it's digitized, it's going to be improved. Like digitization is going to improve the market. But that's a very dangerous and arrogant assumption. It's not immediately clear why digitization would improve the markets at all. Well, why would the dating market be improved by digitization? Why would any market be improved by digitization? Everything worked perfectly well for my grandfather. Everything worked perfectly well for my mother. These markets worked. Why would you change something that's been working? Change is risky. And anyway, the markets have begun to fail due to digitization. We can now see it in the Tinder app most explicitly. So if we look at the Tinder app, and now I'm going to minimize myself, and we'll look at a digital representation, a chart of the Tinder market. So this is the online Tinder dating market here. Okay, we can increase the size of that. Okay. That is the dating market. And in the beginning, I was very active in the market in 2010. And then it was completely different. Everybody who was in the market was a true competitor. You entered the market, you uploaded your photos, your profile, and within a day or two, you'd meet your match, and you'd go on dates, and you would find your significant other. And what happened in 2010-11 is that you'd meet your romantic partner, you'd become engaged romantically, and then you'd delete the app, and you'd leave the dating market, the online dating market. You would stop using it. So the truly competitive people in the beginning of the market here in 2010, they left the market after they met their significant other. In the beginning in 2010, the market was extremely efficient. It was working really well for everybody. And then by 2012, 2013, the proportion of users that were players increased from, say, 10% to 30%. And these people, these players, play boys, play girls, they're not competing for romantic outcomes. They actually enjoy the act of playing around with their phone and playing with other people. They're players. They don't want to find a romantic partner. They don't want a significant other. They're not competing. They just enjoy the act of playing in this market. And you're probably wondering, like, how can the proportion of players increase exponentially over the space of 12 years? How can that happen? So it goes from 0 to like 7, like the majority are now players. How can that happen? Well, it's because the truly competitive people pair off and they leave the market. But the players never leave. So as a proportion of market participants, they increase over time because they just never leave the market. And over time, and this is as a result of digitization, they don't have to leave. They can play for free. Free access to the market. And as a result, say from 2014 on here, you'll start increasing amounts of jaded competitors. Competitors that, they don't get tired from looking online for people because they keep bouncing into these players. The players are crowding out the market now. And the competitive people, they want an efficient outcome for themselves, and they just can't find it in an efficient way. They want an optimum outcome for themselves in an efficient way, but they can't because they keep bouncing into these players. So after around 2014, you'd start seeing more jaded competitors, guys that kind of start giving up, not taking it seriously. And some of them might even become players themselves because they're saying there's no point in taking it seriously anymore. There's no point in taking romantic relationships seriously. There's just too many players. So some of them that are really smart just say, I give up and I just become a player. Now, 2015, I'd say that's the beginning of entrance to the market that were psychotic or antisocial. And these people, they are kind of unhappy personalities, resentful, and they want successful people, they want competitive people to fail in their life. So these psychotic personalities realize, these people are having too much fun. I'm going to ruin it for them. And I'm going to set up fake profiles. If I'm a man, I'll pretend to be a woman. Women pretending to be men. Fake photos, fake everything. Arranging dates, canceling everything so as to ruin the market out of resentment. They're motivated by resentment and anger and personal failures, So that is the Tinder Trap in the top right corner, because over time, as a result of digitization and this exponential growth in the proportion of players, the market is now suboptimal. And the remaining competitive people are trapped in a suboptimal market. And that's what's called the Tinder Trap. And that's where we are now, okay? And that's the Tinder dating market, and it has failed. It no longer works. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the U.S. university market as a second example, just to clarify the concept. All right? So let's look at this here. Okay. And this is the university market. Okay. Once again, so we have to go back now to 1970 for the university market, and that's when digital access to the U.S. university market started. By digital access, I mean digital money. So the Federal Reserve started printing money then, this kind of like digital cash, digital debt. And this digital money allowed for an exponential growth in student loan issuance, and this then financed the entry into higher education in the United States by a lot of players. Okay? So in 1970, the proportion of people who were like students who were competitors in the university system, truly competitive people, were probably 90% plus. But as a result of the student debt, this digital access to the markets, this digital debt, the proportion of players increased after 1980 in my estimation, increased to say 30%. And you're probably wondering that you can see that over time, the proportion of participants increased to be the majority now are just players. And you're probably wondering, like, how is it that these players have become the majority? Like, wouldn't they leave the university system? Wouldn't they graduate? Well, I don't think they would. The players in the university system, they enjoy the university environment, this campus life, this safe space that they create for themselves. They like it, so they don't leave it. They don't leave this market. They stay there. First, they'll do a certificate, they'll do a degree, postgraduate degree, master's, PhD, and then they become faculty. They become the teachers and the staff in the campus. They enjoy the campus life. They don't want to leave. And it's all financed by digital debt. Okay, so, and of course these players, they always just study the soft subjects like sociology, psychology, just the subjective subjects that aren't very difficult. Now, since the proportion of players increases, you have cost inflation, intense cost inflation for the truly competitive students. So the cost of the education went from probably $2,000 in 1970 to now like $40,000 per year. And that's because the proportion of players is now the majority, and they're using up all the resources and causing intense cost inflation. Okay? So the university system in the United States of America has failed. This has now entered into a Tinder trap for the top competing students. They are now trapped in a suboptimal market. Why is it suboptimal? One, it's too expensive because of cost inflation. Two, the standards of the education has dropped dramatically because the majority of students are now players. Standards had to drop because the players are now financing most of the university operations. Okay? So the top students become jaded because of the inflation, cost inflation, and dropping standards. I would say after around 1990, you'll probably have started seeing some malignant personalities enter the university system, people that shouldn't be there. They're not intellectually gifted people at all, but they are resentful. They do resent the intellectually gifted people, men and women. So they, out of envy, will these talentless students will attack the institution. They will try to undermine the institution, try and erode standards, drop standards, collapse it. So this is the Tinder trap, and it's in the university market, and it has resulted in a completely failed market. Now, I'm a system level intellectual, and my area of interest is the reset that we're in right now. Now, this is a system level problem. This market, this university market, now that it has failed, this problem exists at the system level. Okay? So very significant. Very significant. The dating market isn't creating issues at the system level yet, but it will. It will. Okay. You'll just see a drop off in fertility, pair bonding. As a result, you'll see a lot of people who are young, they become angry because they can't find romantic partners. So this society will start breaking down. So this is the university market. It's also in a Tinder trap. But there's multiple markets that are in the same trap. Anything that's digitized has essentially fallen into this Tinder trap. Cryptocurrencies, that's failed, or it's in the process of failing. I know also that there's some bankers and officials in the financial system that want to issue central bank digital currencies. Once again, this will fail almost immediately and will fall into a Tinder trap. Okay, so I know some elite people that have an interest in this idea, but unless very explicit conditions exist, central bank digital currency will fall into a Tinder trap, and it will fall in pretty fast. So we're in a system level reset because all of our markets are failing. It's one of the reasons. And it's very important that this issue is addressed quite immediately. Okay, so the question is, can it be fixed? I think it can be, but it will result in a lot of disruption. Okay, I wish everyone the best of luck.